Question. I know that Kim, if he happens to read this comment, would reject it, but I'm pretty sure in 500 years from now, people will look back and say, oh, this was indeed Christ come again. How come so few people noticed? He may not be able to turn water into wine. I assume that's me, and it's correct, because I don't even like wine. But he surely provides the keys to turn the water of our human consciousness into the wine of a higher state of consciousness, which is a priceless gift. Thank you for that, Kim. And the person is in a sense correct. I wouldn't necessarily reject the statement, but it's just not how I see things. I have, over the many years I've been on the spiritual path, I've seen people think our spiritual movement is the one that's going to change the earth. And in the future, people are going to look back at our spiritual movement just like they now look back at Christianity, and they're going to see that our guru was just as important as Jesus, and we are just as important as Jesus' disciples. And I'm not saying I didn't have that myself when I was younger, with not so much with transcendental meditation, but certainly with the Summit Lighthouse and the Ascended Master teachings. But it's just faded away. It's just faded away. And it's partly because a lot of it just comes from the ego, and the ego's desire to feel special, feel superior, to feel that it's doing something important. It's what I call the epic mindset. And that's just faded away over the years, so I don't have a personal need to have people look back in 500 years and think that I did anything special. I don't have that need. I don't even have a need to feel that people today think that I have done something special. It just isn't there anymore. I did have a desire to feel that I'd done something worthwhile for a long time, but in the last few years it's just faded away. I'm just happy to be who I am and be of service to the Ascended Masters and to help other people. I don't need to look at it as, I don't need to put any interpretation on it. But the other reason that I don't look at it that way anymore is that, as I explained before, most people on earth are in this state of separation, consciousness of separation, where we see ourselves as separate beings. And the alternative is that we see ourselves as connected beings, we reconnect. And what we're really connecting to is the Christ mind, or the one mind, or the Buddha nature. And as you walk the spiritual path, you gain a greater and greater connection to this one mind, which is really your higher self and the Ascended Masters. Because the one mind is just a universal way to describe it, but it's really, we experience it in a personalized form through our higher self and the Ascended Masters. So, as you gain more and more connection, you of course begin to see that separation and duality, this is just illusion. It's the Maya that they talk about in the East. And then you see that the underlying reality is that all life is connected. I won't say all life is one, because it is not that all life is the same. There is differentiation, but all the differentiated beings are connected. We're all part of the one mind. And when you experience this, it's not that you understand it intellectually, you experience it as a reality. And therefore, you first of all overcome the desire to set yourself up as being more important than others. But you also develop the desire just to help raise up all life. And one of the, well, actually the first teaching that the Ascended Masters gave through me when I started working with them in 2002 was a book that was originally called The Christ is Born in You, but now it's called The Mystical Teachings of Jesus. And this is the Ascended Master Jesus who dictated that book through me. And what he explains in there is that in this age, there are 10,000 people who have the potential to manifest their full Christhood, which is that state of connectedness, in this lifetime. And there are millions more who can manifest a high level of Christhood in this lifetime. And what I see, what I experience as a reality is that it is not one person who manifests Christhood, because that was the problem in the Piscean age, where Jesus came as the archetype for a person who has attained Christhood. But what did the dark forces, the fallen beings, do? They turned him into an exception instead of an example. Jesus was meant to be an example of a path that we can all follow. But because the Catholic Church turned him into the only Son of God, God from the very beginning, of the same substance as the Father, they destroyed his example. And nobody dares to follow the example of Jesus because it would be considered blasphemy. So what is going to make the difference in the Aquarian age is that the 1 million manifest the fullness of Christhood, the 10,000 manifest the fullness of Christhood, and the millions more manifest a high degree of Christhood. This is the second coming of Christ. That so many people manifest a higher state of consciousness that you can't turn them all into idols, into exceptions. And therefore there's more of a chance that people can see them as examples. And that's just how I see things. And therefore, my own service is just part of this larger picture. And it's not particularly more important than others because, you see, I have a specific task, that is to bring forth teachings from the Ascended Masters, whatever they want to give through me for people at a certain level of consciousness. But the Masters said they're working through many, many people, and they're seeking to give teachings for a broad range of people who are at different levels of consciousness. So it's not that I don't think in terms of what is the highest teaching for the highest level of consciousness. No, the highest teaching for anybody is the teaching they can grasp at their current level, but which takes them a few steps up. So for some people it may be that a particular teaching out there, let's say a teaching about psychology, for example, that is what helps them. They can connect to it right now, and it takes them up to the next level. And it may not be nearly as detailed or profound as the Ascended Master teachings, but if they can't connect to Ascended Master teachings, then what good does it do them? So that's why I'm saying, I just see my service in a much broader perspective. And, there's no evaluation there of high or low or how important it is or not important. I'm happy to be of service to the Ascended Masters and to other people. And as the person says, 500 years from now, people will look back and say, oh, this was indeed Christ come again. How come so few people notice? Well, that's because, as I said, any teaching is given for a certain level of consciousness. The Ascended Masters are giving some really very profound teachings that have never been given before on earth. And naturally, there's only a limited number of people who are ready for those. But I don't see that as a source of pride or superiority. It's just the nature of the things. But as I said, the teachings for lower levels of consciousness, they're just as valuable, because whatever helps people grow is what's valuable. It's not that, I remember back when you think about this, in Transcendental Meditation, there was a very elitist mindset. There are only a few people that are ready for this, and by meditating, we are helping to change the earth. In the Summit Lighthouse, the same thing. But if you take my video about how the world was created, I'm talking about here, there's a group of beings who rebelled against the process of growth. They're called fallen beings. And they are the ones who really see themselves as an elite and that are superior to others. And they think they are the ones who are controlling the world, or maybe even saving the world from God's mistakes, whatever they believe. So what I'm saying is that over the years I've come to see the weakness of this elitist mindset, because, as I said, the elitist mindset is a product of the fallen mindset, a separate state of mind. When you connect to the Christ mind, you overcome the elitism, because in the Christ mind that connects everything, where we see that everything is connected, there's no value judgment of higher or lower, better or worse. It just fades away. So the whole elitist mindset that you see in many spiritual people, you see it in many spiritual movements, they have this. We have the highest teaching, our guru is the highest guru, we are the ones who are making a difference. It just fades away the more you climb the ladder of the steps of consciousness. And that's why I'm saying I'm not really rejecting the teaching, but I'm just saying the premise that something is more important is just faded away for me. It doesn't matter anymore. And I don't even think that way anymore. I used to, I freely admit that, but it's faded away, and I just don't look at it that way anymore.